A fire, a medical emergency, or a crime. It's simple and straightforward. Call 911 and wait. But instead of getting help, people are being put on hold, and the delay in seeing those emergency lights can be the difference between life and death. A recent example, a man broke up a sexual assault as it was happening in Forest Park, but as he called 911, he was put on hold. In a story you'll only see on News 4, investigative reporter Lauren Traeger uncovers an astounding statistic in St. Louis and gets answers in the effort to keep you safe.
Tells me that something's completely wrong.
Twice recently, Jason Stokes has called 911.
I was on the phone standing right here.
Both times, armed men in his Tower Grove South neighborhood. Real danger and true fear.
I was truly afraid someone was going to get hurt or killed, blocked from my house.
But instead of getting this,
911, where's your emergency?
he got this.
You have reached the 911 center for the city of St. Louis. All operators are busy at this time.
It took over 5 minutes to get through to somebody.
Please do not hang up. Your call will be answered in the order received.
Right about the end of that time, someone pulled a gun and started shooting.
The public safety system, he says, isn't working.
Something is broken, and someone needs to take some time and look at it and figure out what that is.
It's a simple thing we're all taught as children. Need police, fire, or an ambulance? Just dial 911. But after getting a tip about 911 service, I started doing some digging and found some truly shocking statistics that show that 911 service in the city of St. Louis is falling far behind.
That is not good news for the public. It's certainly not good news for the police department.
I showed the data to criminologist and UMSL professor Rick Rosenfeld,
When more than half are put on hold, that's an issue that has to be dealt with.
who confirms the numbers paint a dramatic picture.
No one should want that, least of all the police department.
It all comes down to something called a grade of service, a report card for dispatch centers. National standards dictate 90 to 95% of all 911 calls should be answered within 10 or 15 seconds.
You have to watch the grade of service. It's your measurement.
Former St. Louis Police Communications Commander Dan Howard says it's very black and white.
90 is acceptable. Under 90 is not acceptable.
So we made multiple requests to find out the truth. Other major metros we discovered get pretty close to hitting the mark. In 2020, Nashville answered 85.5% of all 911 calls within 10 seconds. Memphis last month hit 89%. Kansas City more than 92%. And closer to home, St. Charles County answered 99% of their calls in 2020 within 10 seconds. St. Louis County hit 89% in December 2020. But St. Louis City tanked. The city's grade of service in 2020, 65%, with some times of day averaging 50% for the year, meaning half of 911 calls put on hold for more than 10 seconds.
You hear 50%. What do you think about that?
I've never heard numbers that low, and that's not good.
Howard completely shocked.
Very shocking. I've never seen those numbers before. And I'm not going to sit here and judge the people that are currently working. They're heroes. I'm just telling you they need help, and they need it in the form of staffing and resources in that regard, because I've never seen or heard of a 50% grade of service.
Howard says he used to lose sleep over what's called abandoned calls, calls that don't ever reach a dispatcher. In July 2020 in St. Louis, more than 1 in 4 calls never got through at all.
That's a loss for us. You know, they needed us and we weren't there.
As commander, do you feel like that's acceptable?
It's not acceptable.
St. Louis police officials told us we could not go inside the dispatch center due to COVID-19, but we still wanted answers about the data.
Why do you think St. Louis is so much farther below the national average?
That's a good question. I'm still trying to learn that. Like I said, 4 months in, I'm still trying to look at those numbers.
St. Louis's grade of service has been degrading every year since 2017. But while Lieutenant Elston acknowledges the numbers are lower than they'd like, he disagrees with the alarm.
What would you say to people who say that seems like it's at a crisis level?
I wouldn't say at a crisis level, but it's also what type of events we're handling at that time. I mean, we might have 2 shootings going on or something like that, and those type of events will generate more calls.
More, he says people often bog down the system with calls that aren't emergencies.
We had someone trying to ask us how to take their pills or when the schedule is for their pills. So those type of calls actually take away from us actually answering the real 911 calls we need to.
COVID-related questions, too, he says, required more time on each call.
We are definitely understaffed and we definitely need more help.
Emergency 911.
But he says they simply don't have enough people to answer the phone. Right now, they are 18 dispatchers short.
We have a high turnover. Sometimes people get here and go, this is not for me. I don't want to do this, because they see how fast paced it could be. They see the stress of it.
Does this need to be a huge wake-up call to city leaders?
If you're telling me there's a 50% greatest service, that is, people should step back and take a hard look at that today.
Howard says it's clear the city needs to pay its dispatchers more.
Someone in leadership needs to step up and say, this is a problem and I'm going to solve it.
Wondering when he might have to call 911 again, Stokes says the situation is scary.
If you can't handle it on a day-to-day basis, how would you ever handle it when things really go south?
People we talked to say St. Louis starts their dispatchers off at a lower pay than surrounding agencies, so that's why they have a hard time filling spots and keeping people in the job. The department just announced a new software system that should allow them to better prioritize 911 calls over non-emergency calls. They say they hope that will improve the numbers significantly. We'll keep checking to see if it does. I'm Lauren Traeger, News 4 Investigates.